Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this Zoom into Soils meeting. I'm Bruce Lascelles, President of the British Society of Soil Science, and I'm delighted to welcome you to this, our 9th Zoom into Soil webinar. So before I welcome our two speakers, I'd first like to introduce the British Society of Soil Science as hosts of today's webinar. We are an established international membership organisation and charity committed to the study of soil in its widest aspects. We bring together those working within academia and have a growing membership amongst practitioners implementing soil science in industry and those with a keen, more general interest in soils. Today's event welcomes a team behind Soil Voices, who are part of Our Living Soil, which is the 2022 World Congress of Soil Sciences Art and Science programme, which also then links to major international conferences, COP26 this year in the autumn, and the World Congress of Soil Science next year, and hopes to inspire a deeper public understanding of the importance of soils. So for those who may not be aware, the World Congress of Soil Science 2022 is a leading international soil science conference, and it's held every 4 years in different countries and is attended by over 3,000 soil scientists from around the globe. And the next Congress will be held from the 31st of July to the 5th of August next year in Glasgow, and is being organised by the British Society of Soil Science on behalf of the International Union of Soil Sciences. The theme for the Congress next year is Soil Science, Crossing Boundaries, Changing Society, and will focus on the link between soil and society, with sessions covering soil systems, soil processes, soil management, and how we interact with and use soils around the world. And the Our Living Soil part of that is being supported by the Macaulay Development Trust. The charity supports excellent research into the sustainable use of land and natural resources for the benefit of people, their communities, and the environment, which aligns with the vision and the legacy of Dr. T.B. Macaulay. And the trust can trace its origins back to an endowment from Dr. T.B. Macaulay in 1930 to establish the Macaulay Institute for Soil Research. And the trustees distribute those funds for scientific research that progresses T.B. Macaulay's vision of improving the productivity and sustainability of Scottish agriculture through the application of sound scientific research. So just before we begin, some basic housekeeping. As there are so many of you here today, all your microphones have been muted. We will be taking questions at the end of the presentation, so if you could please submit those by 12:50, which will hopefully allow us enough time to get through as many as we can. And although there is a raise your hand button, we won't be using this unless the presenters have specifically asked for a show of hands. The presenters will, however, be asking for some interaction during the session by way of chat messages. These will be anonymous, but please enter your responses into the question box when prompted. And today's presentation has also been awarded BASIS and NROSO CPD points. So if you're registered with either of those bodies, please contact us directly after the event. And finally, please be aware that we are recording today's presentation. So moving on to the presentations, I'd now like to introduce the team behind Soil Voices, and that's Jude Allen and Isla Robertson. Jude has a PhD in human and animal metamorphosis in 20th century literature and a background in both eco-criticism and the representation of the body. June introduced and curated the written word day at the Soil Culture Forum in 2014 and has extensively researched soil and literature and has published articles on animal transformation and tree communication. She is also a UN accredited climate change teacher and runs Oceans of Learning, tutoring English language and literature. Isla is a playwright from the West Highlands of Scotland. As part of Soil Voices project, she has written a 6-part audio drama called Digging Deeper, which has recently had a 3-day development with support from the British Society of Soil Science. Isla is a recipient of the 2021 New Playwrights Award from Playwright Studio Scotland, and is also a trustee of the Andrew Raven Trust, which hosted a weekend on soil in 2019, for which she co-curated a collection of readings entitled Soil Cultures. And so, with nothing else from me, over to you and to Jude and Isla.
Hello, everybody, and it's really lovely to be here. My name's Isla, and my colleague is Jude, who you can also see on the screen, and together we are Soil Voices. Thank you so much to Bruce for introducing us, and particular thanks to the British Society of Soil Science for inviting us to talk today and to talk a little bit about what we're up to in Soil Voices. So Soil Voices are looking for narratives to reconnect us to the stuff beneath our feet. We use stories to help remind people how crucial soil is to human survival and well-being, so that we can all remember to value it and care for it together. Today, we're going to be looking a little bit about why soil is important, and we'd also like to get you to think more deeply about soil using our senses. And we're going to try and help you to discover your own soil voice. Now, for this, you will need a paper and a pen or a pencil and a small pot of soil, but more about that later on. And then finally, there will be a Q&A, so do put some questions in. We're going to have a little bit look first about what we've been up to individually. So Jude's going to speak a little bit about her part of the project, and then I'll come back and talk about what I've been up to with digging deeper.
Okay, thanks, Isla. So I'm just going to talk a bit about what I've been doing, and then Isla's going to talk about her bit. So I've been collecting oral and written accounts of people's individual soil experiences. So I've been going around with a microphone and recording them, which has been quite exciting. And the reason why I've been quite interested in kind of memory and stories is because as humans, we've always kind of had stories which help us understand how the world works and also how we fit into the world. So I've been doing oral history. So has anyone got any ideas what oral history might be? So if I can find the questions. This is a whole new experience here. I usually use Zoom questions. There we go. Let's see if we can expand that. Okay, so oral histories is to do with the spoken word. Think about the word oral and oration. And before stories were written down, before we had books, we had storytellers, and story was a way in which we could pass and share knowledge. So we could kind of share knowledge between places where you kind of went and talked to somebody in the next village, and also a way of bringing stories down through generations. So you would get a parent telling their child something. When they grew up, they would tell their child the same story, but it would change just a little bit. And the stories were a way in with which we make sense of the world. They're often quite local and sometimes linked to farming practices. So, for example, a local story might tell you, help you understand what kind of things should be grown in this field, or you get names of fields as well, which if you've got a farm, you might have fields that are named that might say, oh, I don't know, Soggy Bottom Field or something like that. And those stories would kind of carry on through generations, so people would really know their landscape. And we used to have lots of stories and tales about soil and farming, but we seem to have forgotten them. So the stories that surround us today are often things about, I don't know, what's on your Xbox, or I don't know, Nike trainers. And we've got things that remind us about those stories all the time. So wherever we go, we've got advertisements, we've got things on the internet, and things around us sort of manufacture these stories for us. And they become part of our conversation. But the problem is with this, in a way, is if the conversations we have are nothing to do with the things that with soil, and we're just talking about Nike trainers and Xboxes. I mean, that's kind of generalist, but if we're talking about those kind of things, then we've forgotten how important soil is. And if we forget about soil in the same way that we forget about nature, we will stop valuing it. Some of you might be familiar with Robert Macfarlane's book, The Lost Words, and that book was written to compensate for the fact that lots of words about nature were taken out of the children's dictionary. And the argument of Macfarlane and quite a lot of writers was that if we lack the language to talk about things like bluebells and linnets and hazelnuts, then we stop thinking about them, because we, as humans, we think in language. And if we stop thinking about them, they become less valuable and part of our life. So I've been kind of running around doing that. Yeah, so cultural narrative as well, something on the slide, is the stories that kind of make a people, really, that shape who we are, and they tell us about where we've come from, what we're doing, and where we're going to go in the future. So we've also received a fair amount of funding from the IUSS, International Union of Soil Sciences. The other stuff was funded by BSSS, I have to say. And the funding that we got from the IUSS was to deliver workshops to schools. So we've been, we created a workshop that lasted for 6 weeks, and we delivered it to a school in Devon, here in the UK, and in Kenya. And it was just amazing. So we had 10 kids from Devon, 10 kids from Kenya, all working together in a Zoom classroom and in online collaboration. And we started thinking about why soil is important, a little bit, sort of going to do a condensed version of that today. And the end result was that they collaborated at the end. They all pretended to be little soil creatures. And so we had worms and tardigrades and springtails and things like that. And we gave the students a scenario. So we gave them a drought scenario and a scenario where it rained for weeks and weeks and weeks. And we recorded their responses to it. And Isla wrote an amazing script for it. And if you want, we'll try and fit it in today at the end. If we haven't got time, go and have a look at our YouTube site. But if we have got time, we'll show it to you because it's just fantastic. So yeah, so over to Isla then.
Yeah, I really hope we will have time today to show you one of those videos, because it was just such a lovely experience to share that with all the children in different continents, all coming to life as their own soil characters and chatting to each other about the scenario. It was such a lovely experience to be part of. So I hope we can share that with you. So building on what Jude was talking about stories, about soil used to be at the heart of our storytelling culture, and that's not the same anymore. And one of the things I was really keen to do was to create a really big kind of fictional story, bringing soil back into the heart of that story and our storytelling culture. And I chose to do it as an audio drama. Digging Deeper is an episodic audio drama, and one of the reasons I love audio is that you can do anything with audio. Your only limit is the human imagination, which is limitless. And I was really keen right from the beginning to be able to have the soil actually speaking, and audio just really lent itself to that desire. It became so possible to actually hear from the soil itself. And I've always felt that particularly peat soil is like a keeper of all our stories. The layers of soil, you go down and down, and we can find things in soil sometimes that give us wonderful clues to the past, but the soil itself can tell its own stories. It's this wonderful resource of story and of human history and of earth history and of soil history, and it felt really important that the soil itself should speak. And thanks to some support from the British Society of Soil Science, I was able to organise a development of my audio drama with some actors, and you can see this picture on the screen. These are the actors. It's myself in the middle at the bottom, and in the middle at the top is the sound designer, Callum Partison, and the other four are the brilliant actors who brought it to life over 3 days. And because it's a story that uses human drama to explore some really important soil themes. And it was really exciting to hear it come to life, and these actors did a brilliant job. And the image you can see there, they are all in their own at-home recording studios, because due to obviously the pandemic, we all had to be in our own homes and did it digitally. But we were able, thanks to technology, to record some extracts remotely, everybody in their own places. We were able to remotely record some extracts of the piece. So I'm going to just describe the synopsis to give you some feedback, and then we're going to actually be able to hear the teaser trailer we recorded of Digging Deeper, so you can get a bit more of an idea about what it might sound like. But Digging Deeper is about a girl called Ella, a little girl who is uprooted from her city life when her mum, who's called Kate, is sent back to her childhood village to excavate a bog body. It means that Ella can see a bit more of her dad, who's called Tom, who runs a small struggling farm near the dig site. But he's very, very busy and really struggling to keep going and very tired. And Kate's being very overprotective, which is strange, and she's not keen for Ella to be around. And Ella becomes quite lonely until one day she hears a voice on the wind called Pete, who tells her amazing stories. And when Ella hears how unwell Pete and his friends are, she is desperate to help. But of course nobody listens, and so she's forced to take drastic action, which turns everybody's worlds upside down. And I think now we're going to be able to hear the teaser trailer. It's just about a minute long.
For hundreds of years, I have lain silent with no one to hear me until...
Hello?
She listened. A small girl from a broken home. So like another, and another before her. So sure, so fearless. She has a mother lost in a past that is gone. And a father torn apart by the land he loves. And now, because she listened, she has me. I felt my heart swell as I watched her that night, defending her land, defending me. But I fear for her. A cold wind whips the moorland. The young always think they're invincible. She asked me once who I was, and so I told her, I am the story keeper.
So that was the teaser trailer. And we have 3 more extracts from that story, which we will be putting up on our social media soon. So if you would like to listen to a little bit more of what we have recorded so far, do keep an eye on our social media platforms and on our website. And we are currently applying for funding to record the full drama. So hopefully we'll get that and you'll be able to hear the whole thing. But for now, we're going to move on. So that's a little bit about us, and our aim is that these collections of voices through narratives and stories will start to help get people talking about soil and thinking about it more, and it will become more part of our culture. And for that, we have created a website that we are going to hold these stories on, a big global map, and we will talk a little bit more about that later, because we're really hoping that you might contribute your own soil stories to that map and become part of our global mission to get people talking more and thinking more and caring more about soil.
Okay, great stuff. Thanks. Hope you enjoyed our listening. It's just amazing that we can do that with audio. Okay, brilliant. So what you are going to have to do, you guys, I don't know how old any of you are. I don't know whether you're all sat there with your mums and dads. I don't know whether you're all over 50 or under 12, but it doesn't matter. So what I really, if you haven't picked up a pen and wrote anything in your whole life before, it doesn't matter, okay? But I want everyone to really participate. So in the question box, I think Natalie sent you something that said you can type in the question box. So can you just quickly type one thing in the question box to say why soil is important? Let's see if we can get somebody. And you don't have to type Macbeth or anything like that, or War and Peace. Sustains life, thank you, brilliant. So what about the rest of you? Why is soil important? Got one person. There's 39 of you in here at least, I know. Let's have some more. So sustains life is a massive important thing. The other thing is there's also lots of creatures in soil. So let's have a poll a minute and see how much you guys know. So how many creatures do you think live in a teaspoon of soil? Okay, so great stuff. So less than 3, between 3 and 20, between 20 and 100, 100 and 1,000, or more than 6 billion. How many creatures do you think live in the soil?
I've got some great answers
If
coming
I
through.
can open the question box, there we go. Yeah. I don't know if anyone can see all those questions or not. Right, so I'll try and do the next poll, make it work. Yes, brilliant. So those of you that wrote 6 billion, absolutely right. I gave a talk the other day and someone said 8, because I think they were thinking about big things like worms and little millipedes and stuff. But there are more living things in a teaspoon of soil than there are people on the planet. It's huge, huge amounts. It's like a bit mind-boggling to even think about that. So there's tiny things, microorganisms, things that you can't see with your naked eye, but also just everyday things that you could go and have a look in your garden. You could do a little survey and see how many creatures you could find. Okay, so the next thing to think about in terms of why soil is important, what kind of things, and this might surprise some of you, what kind of things do we get from soil? So let's see if I can get this poll right this time. I was Natalie, you're going to open the poll. I was trying to open it, so maybe that's why. What kind of things do we get from soil? There we go. Hopefully you can all see that now. Oh, brilliant, that's better. Let's wait for everyone to answer. Brilliant. So there's just loads of things. So not often if you ask people, oh, what comes from soil, they say vegetables, potatoes, but it's just almost everything. So we've got squash, flowers, deodorant, vegetables, trees, meat, clothing, paper, pencils, milk, ink, medicine. And if you think everything kind of has its origin. So if you're wearing a woolly jumper, for example, the sheep that made that woolly jumper must have eaten some grass or some food that has been grown in the soil. So the soil is really important for your woolly jumper. Cotton is the plant that's grown in the soil. If you eat mayonnaise, okay, mayonnaise comes from oil and eggs, both of which oil comes from plants that are grown in the ground. Chickens eat grain that is grown in the ground. So all of it is really important. So kind of it is kind of integral to everything that we need. Whoops, gone a bit too far forwards. So that's kind of one of the reasons why soil is important. Anyway, Isla, over to you.
Yeah, so next poll coming up. Just before we do, I just wanted to highlight a comment that's just come in. I think it's just brilliant. Someone said that it's not soil, it's soul. And I think that is just absolutely right. It's the heart of everything we do. And I think that's really, that encapsulates the kind of ethos behind Soil Voices, that it is the heart of everything. And we are dependent on it utterly, and it is just such a big part of our existence. So I just love that, just for now. But anyway, jumping straight on to the next poll before I get carried away. How much soil do you think we have lost over the last 150 years? Do you think it's 10%, 25%, 50%, 75%, or 90% of the soil? It'd be really interesting to see what you think about this one. Just scrolling up the the comments. There's some great comments in there. Just fantastic. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining in. It's just great to get the chat going. I hope that I'll keep going throughout. Here we go. Right, there we go. Ah, brilliant. That's really interesting. There's quite a split there between what you think. So if we go on to the next slide, we can reveal that it is 50%. So quite a lot of you got that right, and quite a lot were quite close. But that's just a terrifying thought, that 50% of our soil in just the last 150 years, when you think how old the Earth is, that is a terrifying thought. So we're going to go on now and have a little bit of a look, and this is where we'd love you to jump in the chat again and start coming up with ideas for how the soil might have been lost. How do you think we might have lost 50% of our soil in these last 150 years? Just going to see if I get the question box open again. See if you can pop in. Here we go. Yeah, intensive farming. That's a very soil degradation, and yeah, erosion. That's a big one. Water erosion. Absolutely. You know, other types of erosion maybe. Construction, urban development, erosion coming in again. Yeah. Deforestation. Yeah, that's a really good one. Trees can really hold soil together. Diminished soil structure. These are fantastic comments. Climate change. Urbanization, yeah, industrial contamination, that's a really interesting one. And wind, yes, another kind of erosion, that's fantastic. Took it to the moon, that's brilliant. What a great one. Oh gosh, they're coming in, so this is fantastic. Brilliant, more erosion, expansion, loss of organic matter, yeah, absolutely fantastic. So coming on to the next question, do keep those coming in if you've got more ideas, is what do you think might happen if we lose our soil? I think that's coming on to you, Jude. Sorry, I'm just getting excited.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I've only just worked out how to see the chat box. I thought no one was talking to us. So, yeah, so the next question is, what do you think might happen if we lose the soil? So I just kind of lamented the sort of tragedy of it, and we've kind of looked at where, you know, how it's being taken away. What will happen if we lose it? Let's see if I can work out how to see the chat was very confusing. Yes, we perish, basically. Thank you, Charles. We would, you know, we can't survive without it, and we lose civilizations as we can't feed ourselves. It's, you know, we are so fundamentally dependent in everything that we do, the way that we eat, the way we feed ourselves, the way we clothe ourselves. We use soil to build our houses. It's so important, and I guess all of you are here, so you probably kind of are quite into soil as well. But it's what we're trying to do with part of the project is to get other people who just are not interested in soil to understand how important it is. So the other, I've got to jump forward really quickly. So yeah, none of us would be able to survive, okay? It's just so important. And the other thing that soil does is it's also a carbon sink. And a carbon sink is basically anything that will absorb more carbon dioxide from the atmosphere than it releases. And soil is a massive carbon sink. So healthy soil is, you know, another important thing for having healthy soil is that it can help combat climate change and basically absorb some of the greenhouse gases that are kicking around and making our life a bit kind of hectic at the moment. Okay, so hopefully you're kind of geared up and you've been writing in the chat, which is great stuff. So have you all got your pots of soil and some paper and something to write with? Now, as I said before, we are not expecting war and peace. So it's really, you know, take your time, listen carefully. It might have been something you haven't done before. You might have done things like it before, but just, there's no kind of judgment over what you write. So it's about your personal response. Okay, so we're going to take it in turns and just about sort of slowing down a bit for the next 8 minutes. So Isla.
So this is where we're going to try and help you find your soil voice. So we'd like you to get your pot of soil and pick up some of it in your hand. Roll it around on your hand, in your palm, with your fingers. Maybe shut your eyes so you can really just focus on how it feels in your hands to be touching the soil and to be holding it. How does the soil feel? Think really carefully about the textures, the temperature. Is it damp or dry? Does it remind you of something? Let yourself just sit quietly, just breathing and just feeling the soil, rubbing it around in your hands, letting it sink into the lines on your hands, and think about how it feels under your fingers or lying on your hands. And if you would like to share some of this in the chat, please do, or just write it on your paper. And it can be absolutely anything in the world, even if it's just one word that jumps out at you. Real, that's lovely. Yeah, I think that's a word often comes to my mind when I'm having some quiet time and just touching the earth, feeling, and gritty and grainy. Those are very good words to describe soil. And of course, there's all different types of soils. It'd be interesting, all of you sitting in probably in quite different locations may have very, very different soil in your hands. So that's quite interesting to think about as you're holding your soil. You can be thinking about all the other people, all connected through this call, but in different places, but also connected through different soils, and we're all doing it at the same time. Rough and soft. That's lovely, that contrast. Damp, cold, sandy. That's a soil I know well.
Okay, so the next thing we want you to do is using your eyes. And eyes, we're quite used to using our eyes to look at things. And then open your eyes and look really closely at your pot of soil. Like really take the time, not just to glance at it, but actually to really notice it. And to look at all the different colours and shapes and textures. So you might want to get up really close to it. And it's probably not just brown. And what Isla said as well about having all of you in different places. What type of brown? Like all of you will have different soils. So really look about the little shapes that you can see. Can you see any creatures running about? Can you see any different shapes? Is it shiny or matte? And you might be able to see places where worms have gone. You might be able to see little wormholes if you're lucky. It might look very sandy or sticky. And then similarly, I can't actually see the chat. I can't work it out. But if you put, Isla might kind of read some of that out. But either put some in the chat or write something down on your notes. And like Isla said, you don't have to write loads. You can just write one word. Some of you might want to write a lot.
Now, this one might sound like a bit of a strange one. I spent quite a lot of time doing this. What we'd like you to do now is think about how your soil sounds. So if you get it up like near your ears and rub it between your fingers, think about how it sounds. Really, close your eyes and really sink into the sounds that you can hear. And once you've done that for a little while, really thought about the noise your particular soil is making, think about maybe if your soil could speak, what might it be saying to you? There's some lovely comments in the box which I can read out. Squelchy, that's a great one. I love that word for soil. I think that's just brilliant. Be careful. That would be maybe what the soil's saying to you. I think that's a really, really nice one. That's lovely. Warm, that's lovely. I'm not sure if that's maybe looking or sounding, but both really, really nice. Sounds like a softer version of a saw through timber. Gosh, what a beautiful image. That's really, really lovely. You need me. I think that is very true. That's just what we're trying to do with Soil Voices, is to create that reconnection and know that we need each other, and that connection is so important for our survival, for both of us. That's lovely. Soils always whisper, save me. Well, that's beautiful. That's really lovely.
The next thing we want you to do is get your nose in there. So really, really get up close. Try not to sniff it up your nose. But how does it smell? And smell is a really hard thing. We don't have many words for smell. We often say, oh, it smells like chocolate, or it smells like burnt toast. But just really see what words you could think of to describe that smell. And you might smell it in the pot, and then cup some in your hand and roll it around in your hand. And as the warmth of your hand adds a sense of moisture to it, just smell it and see if it smells different. And try shutting your eyes as well. Really big, deep breath. Does it make you think of an emotion? Does it smell alive? It might smell like temperature can have a smell, I think, when something smells cold or damp or dry. And again, I'm seeing this chat box in a very strange way, so I can't see if you're writing in the chat box.
I could read some out.
Yeah, that's really lovely.
Up. I'll read a couple out. There's this lovely one. Someone who's written peaty, which I think that is my favourite smell in the whole world. If you could bottle that, I love it. I go out there sometimes and just breathe. It's just the most beautiful smell. Remarkably clean. I think that's a great one. That's fantastic. It is so clean soil. It's wonderful. It releases my stress. That's beautiful. Breathing in the smell of soil. I find that when I'm very stressed out, just going outside and just breathing in the smell of the earth. It's wonderful. That's really, really lovely. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thanks everybody. So, and what you said about the stress thing, I think, soil scientists might have to correct me on this, but I'm pretty sure soil either contains something that produces serotonin in your brain. So actually going out and digging and working with the soil, getting up close to it, can alleviate depression, can actually make you feel happier. So and again, I can't really see these answers. I'm seeing them in random places, but Isla can kind of deal with the answering bit. So how did that make you feel in terms of emotion? Did it kind of, when we've done it with, I don't know how old you guys are, but when we've done it with kind of kids that have been 12, 13, they found it really kind of, we had one that said that it was quite intimidating and really sort of awe-inspiring to kind of notice this thing that we don't usually pay much attention to, and something that's really, really important. So just have a little think, maybe put in the chat, or again, write down on your notes and see how you felt about it.
Yeah, there's a couple coming through in the chat. Calm, that's lovely. And grounded. Right, at times the world can feel like you're getting caught up in a tornado, and quite often just going out into the garden, into the park, going on a walk, even taking your shoes off and just feeling the earth under your feet, you can come back to it in a way and feel grounded. Home, absolutely, and uplifted. Oh, that's lovely. That's absolutely
when I was
right.
pregnant with my middle daughter, I was quite stressed, and the midwife actually said, go and take your shoes off and go and stand outside for a bit. Go and stand on the grass and ground yourself. Okay, so this is brilliant. I'm just so impressed that everyone's like, it's just been so lovely of you to respond, so thank you. So what we're going to do, or what you're going to do, is kind of stick the whole thing together, spend some time and see what you can add to your notes. And you don't have to be really creative. It doesn't matter what you produce. It's a very personal thing, and you might just keep what you've got. You might think it's really boring. Hopefully you don't. But you might hopefully be sort of prompted to kind of add a little bit to it, look some more at your soil and spend some more time, and see if you can kind of change it a little bit and maybe make it into a letter to the soil, or a diary entry of a worm, or a poem if you're feeling particularly literary. Could you add a picture or a photo, or could you make a little video on your phone maybe? And why we're asking you to do this, and we would just be so incredibly grateful if you could, and it would just give you this amazing opportunity to add to our Soil Voices map. So what we're doing to help build this story of soil that we've been talking about, and why this is so important, and to bring the stories of soil back into conversations, is to collect them. And if you have a look, we started filling up our maps. You can go and have a look at it a bit later and look at some of the stuff we've got. We've got audios, we've got little videos, we've got some written stuff. And Isla's going to read some examples in a minute. We should just have time to do a couple. And it's an opportunity for you to be part of that, which would just be fantastic, because you'll be helping the soil and helping bring it back into conversation. So this is some of the stuff that we've kind of gathered with workshops for the kids. So I think, should we play the Scottish one, if that's okay, Natalie? And then Isla can read out just a couple. We should just have enough time to read a couple out, to give you some examples. This is kind of, you don't have to make a video, but it's just to give you some examples.
Of a character, I guess, and when he died, it wasn't unexpected. He was, he's 80, and he had a major stroke, so it was very, very sad, but his time had come. So as a son of the family, I was standing at the head of the gravestone, the grave, and luring him into the hole, what's called the hole for the coffin. I just suddenly thought, what a superb soil to end your days in. I really did, and I thought, God, what's Dad going to think about that? But I thought, well, he just laugh. He really will just laugh. It was a very warm, fully drained brown soil, which it sort of invited you to stay there almost. And I thought, yeah, he'll be happy there. He'll be happy there. Not a bad place to finish his days, I think.
So that was just an example of a kind of snippet interview that I've done. If any of you want to do longer interviews, or you'd be interested, then please get in touch with us, because that would be great. So I was going to read a lot of the examples here are from the work that we did with the kids in Devon in Kenya. So it's kind of across the two countries, or two continents.
Dear soil, soil is earth or dirt. Though you may taste, smell and look bad, you are the source of my life. Although people erode you with their activities, you will always be mine. The way I came from you is the way I will go with you. And that was by Christopher, who was one of the students in our workshops. And then we've got a longer piece. In nature, soil comes from two directions, above and below. The lowest layer comes from the bedrock, coarse and fine, the chalk against wood, the smell of darkness caging in its heavy, mossy scent. Over millions of years, the mineral-rich primary rocks have slowly broken down to form smaller, softer versions of itself, which breathes its heavy breath on the natural world. The upper layer shields humanity's greed from the riches and pleated soil below. The solid particles of soil encloses its natural beauty, away from those who seek it, forever preserving life's great tastes. There are positives and negatives to each and every soil type, as all things are. Some are damp and sound like deep chocolatey brown. Others are hard and chalky, guarding the secrets of earth and smell of confidence. Soil is the very thing that gives life to all, at the top and yet somehow still bottom of the food chain, encasing everything real, good and bad. Soil is the beginning and end, from when you make your first mud pie at the keen age of 2, to when it hits your hard wooden coffin as you retreat into the soil for the last time.
Absolutely beautiful. And just 2 very different examples, or 3 different examples of how people are responding to soil, and just makes my heart sort of beat. When the responses we got from the workshop were just so wonderful. So we haven't really got time to read out these other couple, which is fine. Oh, and we haven't got time to do the waterlog thing. Have we got time to do that? 3 minutes? Yeah. So this was the response, how the kids wrote their own soil script, and we got an actor. Isla's kind of adapted the script, and we got an actor to read it out. So let's do that, and then we'll round up. Thank you.
Soil Voices presents Drying Out, a soil play written by the students of King's Kids Village, Nairobi, and Churston Grammar School, Devon. Read by James Rotker. It hasn't rained here for 6 weeks, and it's so hot. Everything round here is dry and cracking, and now things are struggling to grow. What is everyone going to do? Goodness, what's that? That strange noise. Oh, moles. Can you slow your digging a little tonight? I know you're worried about getting everything ready for your babies, but it's so dry. Yes, piped up a worm. Stop digging so fast. We're small and you might smash us. Yes, said another. Your paws are amazing and dig so swiftly, but this soil is so crumbly it's going to fall on us. Hello, moles, said the plant roots. I heard you were worried about your tunnel collapsing on your babies. The soil near leafy Brownington has some of my thickest roots. You could go there instead. Just tunnel through Golden Crumble Street to get there. Your babies will be safe there, and there is lots of food. I can't stop, grumbled the mole. I need a place for my babies, and it's not finished yet. I will find food for them. Trust me, I will. Well, suit yourselves, said the cross plant roots. I'm sure everyone else will have enough to go around. Another mole popped its head up. I don't think I can even dig at all with all this dry soil. I don't know what you're complaining about, said the rotifer. This is good weather for us. Yeah, we're perfectly all right too, said the tardigrades. We can survive for up to 30 years without food. Well, we can't, squeaked a woodlouse. We need more moisture. Us too, cried a springtail in distress. Me and my friends are getting worried about the soil drying up. We can't get through it with it being so dry. Can anyone help us? I'll help you, said a worm, bursting through the soil towards them. I'm going to start digging my holes further away from the moles anyway, just in case they get a bit too hungry and eat me up. There hasn't been mole activity in Crumble Creek for 5 years, worms. I've been expanding my roots there for more moisture, said the plant roots nearby. I can collect remaining water, said the mycorrhizal. And I'll try and expand my roots to find more nutrient-rich areas, said the plant roots again. I've always wanted to know the land beyond Browniter. Maybe that'll be more fruitful.
There we go. So I hope you enjoyed that, and just the sound quality I just think is amazing and just so brilliant that it was just kids from across the world working together. So thank you so much, and thank you for having us. and inviting us. So yeah, so if anyone's got any questions then.
Thank you, Jude and Isla. That was absolutely fascinating, allowing us to engage with soils in different ways. And I absolutely love the comments that came through about how you are all sensing the soil around you. I think that's really, really important. As a soil surveyor, there was words used there like comfort and calm, and I'm pretty sure I've been stood in the field hand texturing the soil, so feeling the soil, and probably rolling that soil in my hands for much longer than I need to texture it, just because it's comforting and it's relaxing and it's that motion and the sense and the feel. So absolutely fantastic, and it's great to see how this has developed, and I'm really interested to see how it goes on as well. And you started off talking about how soils should speak to us, and that ability we need to have to recognize what's happening in our landscapes. And I think that sort of sense of landscape literacy, being able to look at the land and our soil and recognize that it's living, it's dynamic, it's changing, there are processes happening everywhere, and also that whilst not wanting to be sort of doom and gloom, but that kind of reference to the fragility of our existence if we don't recognize the importance of soils, if we don't treat our soils properly. So we do have a few questions, and the first one is from Hannah Bowley. What age children do you do the school workshops with, and how many do you hope to run? And Hannah says it's a brilliant idea.
So we had the one we did was aimed at Key Stage 3, so it was actually at Year 8, but the kids in Devon were from Year 8, and the kids in Kenya were aged 10 to 15, I think.
Yes, that's right. 10 to 15. We had a wider age range, and it worked actually really well with all those ages. It was lovely hearing the different perspectives actually from different aged children. It was really
from different cultures as well. It was really interesting. But I gave a talk recently to Black to Nature kids. I went up to a wildlife place in Dartmoor and just did it solely with them, and they were about between 15 and 16ish. But I think it could be adaptable. You could bring it down to primary level, or do it for adults as well. We've got funding for 3 more workshops at the moment, and I've put in for some funding to do some stuff in Devon. But if we can get the funding, we're happy to deliver lots. And I just love the idea of connecting people across the globe as well. So, but yeah, email us if you're interested. Do.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic, and those were really articulate, pieces of words, a section of words that you've been able to gather. We've got a question from Henry Driver, who first of all starts off by saying thank you for the inspiring presentation. Kind of you've maybe answered it a bit, but he's asking, what are your plans or projects going forward?
Isla?
So we've got several different strands running. The workshops obviously is one of our next big things. We have just launched our website, which we're really excited about. So we are actively looking for stories. So please do get in touch with us if you would like to share your stories, because we would love to keep building this to make it it could be a fantastic resource right around the world for people to share soil stories. And as for digging deeper, the audio drama, we're currently looking for to partner with other people to get that fully produced, and we're really, really hoping that we'll be able to get all episodes professionally produced and recorded in time for the Congress. So we're just in the process of organising funding and pulling things together for that. And I know, Jude, you're also doing some other interviews and collecting more stories. Yeah,
and one of the ideas we had, I don't know how it will work with a blended conference, is that we would gather soil stories and oral histories and then produce some kind of verbatim theatre that could happen as the conference is going ahead, but we have to kind of work out how that would pan out. And I think part of the original intention, because we got together in 2020 and we sort of like batted, in the middle of lockdown. I mean, Isla and I have never met, and with the help of Willie, who I think is here, Willie Towers, put us together. He's been an amazing help. But just we've had so many conversations, and one of the the kind of aims would be to kind of somehow engage food producers, because what's really important to us is to get people who are not into soil into it. And it's very easy when you've got an audience who've come to a soil conference who are kind of halfway there, or probably 3/4 the way, or maybe 100% the way there already. But you know, when we're doing the workshops in schools, kids are so disconnected from it, and just from nature generally. It's frightening. I teach children who don't know what order the seasons go in, which is quite sobering, because we kind of think, oh, well, people know that, but actually they don't. So how to connect to those people is a sort of big next step, I think. And I think through culture is the really good way of doing it.
Yeah, using story to help people understand something that's away from their thinking.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. That was a great answer. Could you just remind us of the website address where people can find your contact details and so on?
That's soilvoices.org.
Soilvoices.org.
Yeah, and we're soilvoices@gmail.com. But if you go through the website, that should put you there.
And if anyone's got any trouble connecting, come through to the British Society of Soil Science office, and we'll link people through as well.
And also, we should say we do share soil stories every day through things like Instagram and Twitter. That's at soil. So if you want a little daily dose of a little connection with nature, do give us a follow for that. It could be quite fun.
Brilliant, thank you. Okay, well, we're coming up close to time, and I've got no other questions listed. So I guess finally, on behalf of the British Society of Soil Science, I would like to express our thanks again to Jude and Isla for coming along to present today. I think it's been a fantastic session. And thank you all for attending and engaging through the chat with your thoughts and your comments. You will find a quick feedback survey when you leave the webinar, and I hope you'll find time to complete that, because it's really helpful for us to develop these further and so on. And the recording of this video will also be available after the event on our YouTube channel. So we won't be having a Zoom webinar in September, as we're hosting our annual conference and AGM on Tuesday, the 7th of September. And the annual conference theme is soil health. And it's a half-day session, and it will include a number of invited speakers and panelists on the topic. For members, the conference is free. And if you're a non-member and the event is of interest to you, you can become a member via our website for just £31. And also, just as I mentioned at the beginning, the World Congress of Soil Science will be held in Glasgow from the 31st of July to the 5th of August next year. So please do save that date in your diaries. The core scientific programme is supported by tours and a cultural and arts programme for delegates and the wider public to explore our diverse environment and culture around soils. And we hope that abstract submissions for the Congress will open in the next few days. And details of the tours, Congress tickets, we have a soil judging competition as well, will all be released by early September. So please do keep an eye out on our Congress website for more information. And if you've got any questions, please contact Christine Beryl at the Society. And yeah, I hope to see you at future events. And in the meantime, thank you again and goodbye.